The disciples of Jesus never wrote in a book, but everybody thinks the New Testament is legit. Or that's not even the worst part. They also believe the resurrection story is all true. What if Matthew, Mark, and Luke underwent a severe interrogation for the alleged writing of their books? Would they survive it? And if you were the police officer interrogating them, would you still believe in their story in the end? In this skit video, I'm going to walk you through the harsh reality of the New Testament. I have spent 2 weeks and a half reading and making researches about the story, but I'll spare you the boring details. Believers or skeptics, make sure you stick till the end, because once you see it, you cannot be unseen. So let's get to it.
Imagine you're a police officer working on the case of the resurrection of Jesus. But as that Jesus is nowhere to be found and no evidence is left behind, you feel stuck. Then luckily, 3 dudes come up to you, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, claiming they are Jesus' disciples. They know what happened because they were all there when he resurrected. As they are allegedly eyewitness of everything, you would assume that they have some solid intel to give you to help you progress in the case. So, as a smart officer, you know damn well what to do. Instead of interrogating them at once in one room, you separate them, putting each of them in a room to see how solid their so-called intel are. So, it all goes like this. Room 1. Mr. Matthew, I gotta say, it's like you were sent by God himself to help me on this. I was totally clueless. Can you confirm me that you 3 were with him after his resurrection? Sure, we were all together after this miracle, sir. Tell me, where did you guys meet Jesus the last time after his resurrection? Well, after Mary Magdalene and the other Mary had discovered Jesus was resurrected, they rushed back to tell us. And on their way, Jesus appeared to them and said, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me. I will be awaiting them." Then we went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told us to go. When we saw him, we worshipped him. Oh, thank you, sir, thank you. So correct me if I'm wrong. After Jesus resurrected, he appeared to Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, right? Exactly, sir, exactly. And then he gave them a message for you, his disciples. Yes, sir. And in the message he said that he will be awaiting you in Galilee. And just as he said it, you actually went to Galilee and met him there. Correct. Alright, thank you, Mr. Matthew. I'll come back to you if I have other questions. Now that you have collected the informations of Matthew, it's time to go interrogate Mark. Let's now go to room 2 for Mark's interrogation. Mr. Mark, can you confirm me that you 3 were with Jesus after his resurrection? Of course. We're the only one who had the chance to see him after this miracle. Oh, that must have been amazing. So, where did you 3 guys meet up with Jesus after his resurrection? Well, after Mary Magdalene and the other Mary found out the stone of the tomb of Jesus was already rolled away, they entered and did not see the body of Jesus our Lord, but they saw an angel sitting on the right side. Notice that according to Matthew, the women saw an angel coming down with an earthquake, rolled away the stone and sat on it outside, and spoke to them. But according to Mark, when Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came, there was no earthquake. The tomb was already opened, and the angel didn't sit outside on the stone, but inside on the right side. Is this the same story? We don't know yet. Do not be alarmed, he said. You're looking for Jesus who was crucified. He has risen. He's not here. But go, tell his disciples and Peter, he's going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you. Afterward, Jesus appeared in a different form to 2 of the disciples while they were walking in the country. Notice that according to Matthew, Jesus appeared to Mary Magdalene and she worshipped him. But according to Mark, he appeared not to Mary, but to 2 of the disciples. Makes us wonder if this is the same story. These returned and reported it to us, but we did not believe them either. Notice again, according to Matthew, it was Mary Magdalene who brought back the news to the disciples. But according to Mark, it was 2 of the disciples instead. Later, Jesus appeared to us as we were eating. He rebuked us for our lack of faith and our stubborn refusal to believe those who had seen him after he had risen. Excuse me, sir. Where did you go meet Jesus? We didn't go meet Jesus because we didn't believe those who claimed they saw him. But Jesus appeared to us as we were eating and talking about all that. Dear believer, don't forget, you're a police officer. How do you deal with the situation? According to Matthew, they went to Galilee to meet Jesus. But according to Mark, no one went to Galilee, but Jesus came to them instead as they were eating. So, 3 men claim they were eyewitness of an event, but they don't know where it happened. Let's not go get ideas so rapidly. Maybe Luke has better intel, so let's go to room 3. Good afternoon, Mr. Luke. My apologies for making you wait so long. I had some duties to attend to. So, you and the other guys were close friends with Jesus, right? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good, good. Can you confirm me that you three were with him before his death and after his resurrection? Actually, sir, I was not there. I only heard things here and there, you see what I mean? Oh, so you're not a witness? Not as you would want it, but I know the story inside out. You mean better than the other two guys? All I can say is that you can take my word for it. Oh, alright. So tell me, where did the other two guys meet up with Jesus after his resurrection? After the women realized the body of Jesus was no longer in the tomb, they were puzzled. As they were wondering about that, suddenly, two angels stood beside them. What? And told them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He has risen." You have to note that Luke is going even more insane than the other guys. Not only he was not an eyewitness, now he claims that it was two angels that appeared to the women, while the other guys said it was only one. And again, don't forget, you're a police officer. You're collecting solid intel for a case on which there is no real evidence, just the word of three random dudes. When the women came back from the tomb, they reported everything to the 11 disciples, including Matthew and Mark, but they did not believe a word of it. Peter, however, got up and ran to the tomb to see for himself. That same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus. As they are walking and talking about all these things, Jesus himself came up and started walking with them. What? As they approached the village to which they were going, Jesus continued as if he were going further. But they urged him strongly, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening. The day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and began to give to them. Their eyes were opened suddenly, and they recognized them, and he disappeared from their sight. Okay, dear believer, how do you explain that? Luke, who's not a disciple, who's not even an eyewitness, but talks like he knows better than the two guys who were allegedly there. According to him, Jesus spent the night with those two men and then disappeared, while Mark and Matthew, alleged eyewitness, didn't even grace to talk about all that in their depositions. They got up at once and returned to Jerusalem. There, they found the 11 disciples assembled together and saying, "It is true, the Lord has risen and has appeared to Simon." Then the two men told what happened on the way and how Jesus was recognized by them when he broke the bread. While they were still talking about all this, Jesus himself stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." So that's how Mark and Matthew met Jesus? Yes, sir. Amazing, huh? Yeah, amazing. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, first of all, Jesus resurrected. When the women came to the tomb and did not see him, they saw two angels. Then, they reported it to the 11 disciples. Then Peter ran to the tomb to see for himself. Then Jesus appeared to two random men who were going to a village called Emmaus. He walked with them, spent the night with them, then he disappeared. Afterward, they returned to Jerusalem to report the news, but the 11 disciples, including Mark and Matthew, was already gathered and talking about how Jesus appeared to Simon. And then bam! Jesus appeared to them, right there, in Jerusalem, not in Galilee, not around the table while they were eating. Huh? You got it all clear, sir? Yeah, that's it. Now, dear believers, the ball is yours. What can you achieve with these informations? After 3 long hours of interrogation, what have you learned so far that can help you in the case? Where and how did Jesus meet the disciples after his resurrection? Can you tell? They went to meet him in Galilee? Or he appeared to them around the table as they were eating? Or maybe he came to them in Jerusalem as they were hyped and already convinced that he was alive? Can you tell? How many angels spoke to the women? 1 or 2 angels? Can you tell? Who did Jesus first appear to after he got out of the tomb? To Mary Magdalene? Or to 2 of the disciples? Or maybe to 2 random men going to Emmaus? Can you tell? And how many days later Jesus ascended? Because according to Luke, after his resurrection, which was 3 days after his death, he walked with the 2 men who were going to Emmaus and spent the night with them. That means another day has passed. So now we're on the 4th day. So did he ascend on the 3rd day, as Mark and Matthew claimed? Or on the 4th day, as Luke claimed? Or on the 44th day, as claimed in Acts 1 verse 3 to 11? After his suffering, he presented himself to them and gave them many convincing proof that he was alive. He appeared to them over a period of 40 days and spoke about the kingdom of God. There you could maybe argue that he gave them those proofs in their visions, or maybe in their dreams, or in any other spiritual way. But as you keep on reading, it goes, "On one occasion, while he was eating with them, he gave them this command: "Do not leave Jerusalem, but wait for the gift my father promised, which you have heard me speak about." So now you realize that along those 40 days, he was really there with them, giving them proofs and also eating with them.
Yeah, boy. Okay.
So, when did he ascend? On the third day, according to Mark and Matthew? On the fourth, according to Luke? Or maybe on the 40th, according to Acts? Now you realize that you're working on a case with no evidence that your person of interest even existed. No photo, no body, nothing. And the dudes who claim to have been witness of everything leave you even more clueless than you were, which leaves you thinking that those Matthew, Mark, and Luke are no witnesses. None of them knows what they are talking about. You spent 3 hours interrogating them and did not collect anything beside the fact that the story is all made up and they couldn't even keep up with the narrative. But as promised in the beginning of the video, I know you have something to say, which is normal. You're just defending your faith. But please, be intellectual and try to make it make sense. I know some of you are going to argue that if 3 people are telling the same story, they will never tell it the same. Well, it's like saying if 3 people are talking about 9/11, one will say it happened in Florida, the other will say it happened in Washington, and then the last one will say it happened in New York. Or maybe one will say it was 5 planes, another will say it was 10 planes, or maybe the other one will say it was 2. Not because different people tell a story that the story has to be different. What is true remains true. If it happened in New York, no matter who tells the story, it will still take place in New York. So they are either making up things or made up the whole story themselves. Well, now let's move on to the second story. I believe that the wife of Cain is a big flop in Genesis. Like, there is no way this can add up to the initial narrative. But who knows, maybe your faith can do the impossible. In the beginning, God created 2 people, Adam and Eve, and asked them to replenish earth. So far, there are only 2 people on the face of the earth. A while later, in Genesis chapter 4, Adam and Eve made love and Eve became pregnant and she gave birth to Cain. She said, "With the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man." Now, we have 3 people on earth. That's a simple math. I believe that we all can agree on that. So far, so good. Adam, Eve, and Cain, the only 3 people on the surface of the earth. Later on, she gave birth to another boy, Abel. So, Cain now has a brother. Again, simple math, there are now 4 humans on the surface of the earth. Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel. Okay? Cain and Abel grew up until they were able to have their own occupations. And then bam! Cain unalived Abel because of how God treated him. As it is written, in the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord, and Abel also brought an offering, fat portion from some of the firstborns of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering, he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. Let's open a parenthesis here. Is it only in my church that I used to be preached that the Lord accepts you with anything you have? Why God was more interested in the sacrifice of the firstborns? What was wrong with the fruit of Cain? Fruit he had grown with dedication. Isn't it God who triggered Abel's death somehow? Anyway, back on Cain's wife. So now that Cain had unalived Abel, only 3 people are left on the surface of the earth, since Adam and Eve hadn't given birth to any other child so far. How do I know that? Well, because when we fast forward a couple of verses further, specifically in Genesis chapter 4 verse 25, it is written, Adam made love to his wife again, and she gave birth to a son and named him Seth, and saying, God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him. Which means, even the 3rd child of Adam and Eve was still not a girl. So far, there is no one to be the wife of Cain. And in case you're wondering, how old was Adam when he had his son Seth? Well, read Genesis 5 verse 3. When Adam had lived 130 years, he had a son in his own likeness, in his own image, and he named him Seth. So Adam had Seth when he was 130 years old. In other words, even at 130 years old, no girl was given birth to. The only woman on the surface of the earth at the time was Eve, the mother of Cain. And even if the 4th child of Adam and Eve happened to be a girl, there is no way she could have been the wife of Cain. Because apparently, Cain found his wife way before Seth was even born. Now the ball is yours, dear believers. Give me your best shot on this one. If Adam and Eve were really the first and only people on earth, who then gave birth to 2 boys, and then a 3rd boy by 130 years old? Where could Cain have found a wife? Did we miss an episode? Please, give me your best shot on this one. According to the narrative, the only way Cain could have found a wife is if Earth was already populated. Because apparently, when God was banishing Cain, he was worried that he gets beaten to death by strangers along the road. So God put a mark on his face to prevent that from happening. So the Bible is insinuating that the Earth was populated, while that same Bible is claiming that Adam and Eve were the first people on Earth. People who didn't even give birth to a girl yet. So, make it make sense. Oh, by the way, you have watched so far and almost forgot to give me a subscribe. Thank you for your time. And please give me a like, a share, and a comment. Tell me if you agree or not and why. Share it with your friends. See you in the next video.